Welcome back to The Explainer. So, have you ever looked at someone and just caught a fleeting, unsettling glimpse of an animal staring back at you? Like maybe a predatory hawk in the slope of their nose or a nervous rodent in the way their eyes dart around. Well, today we're unpacking a truly classic piece of supernatural fiction and psychological horror, Abraham Merritt's 1934 tale, The Drone. We're going to take a highly structured look at the psychology of the supernatural, really analyzing the deep, unsettling theories this story presents about the boundaries between humanity and the animal kingdom.
Okay, a key idea sets the stage for our explainer today. Quote, there is a borderland between the worlds of consciousness of man and of beast. I really want you to hold on to that word, borderland, because the core philosophical debate we're analyzing today hinges on this exact idea. Is the line between human and animal a solid brick wall of biology, or is it a permeable, shifting border? Can the consciousness of one literally bleed into the physical form of another? Section 1, the human-beast borderland. The source material opens by setting a very specific scene. We've got 4 learned men, experts in their fields, a botanist, an ethnologist, a poet-curator, and an archaeologist, just sitting around a table at the Explorers Club. Now, they aren't swapping ghost stories for cheap thrills. They're actively debating ancient mythology, werewolves, foxwomen, and recent reports of fanatic cults where humans seemingly adopt the predatory nature of leopards. They are desperately trying to apply logic to the totally illogical.
So, there's a really clear divide in their logic. First up, we have Karanak, the ethnologist. He pitches this theory of submerged animal consciousness. Basically, he argues that everyone has a little bit of beast in them. He claims to have known men with rat souls and predatory hawk faces. Under the right conditions, he argues, this animal nature can entirely submerge the human part, making the person literally appear as that animal to a sensitive observer. Countering him, though, is Winston, the archaeologist and the resident skeptic. He calls this out as mere hypnotism and illusion. He argues it's just visual manipulation, tricks of the light, and suggestible minds. As we go through the evidence presented in the story, I want you to keep both of these theories in the back of your mind. Section 2, Terror in the Jungle. And that debate leads us straight to our first piece of evidence. Hewitt, the botanist, steps in with a terrifying personal encounter from his time in the western jungles of Abyssinia. He was warned by his headman about a local wizard priest who supposedly turned into a hyena on the nights of the full moon to hunt for human flesh. When Hewitt finally confronted this priest, he found a man wearing a massive hyena skin, its head grinning right over his own. The man had filed his teeth and he smelled powerfully, sickeningly of the beast. Let's actually track how this night went down. At twilight, the usual village bustle completely vanished. The terrified locals hid in their huts. Then, right at moonrise, Hewitt watched the edge of the clearing. Abruptly, the priest was just there, naked except for that heavy hyena skin, his filed teeth glistening as though oiled. And then, Hewitt describes a swift haze crossing his vision. When it cleared moments later, the priest was gone. In his place stood a massive hyena, standing on its hind legs like a man, its forelegs crossed over its shaggy chest. The thick, suffocating reek of the animal filled the air. The beast grinned, walked 6 paces on its hind legs, dropped to all fours, and trotted into the bush. By dawn, the horrific reality set in. One of Hewitt's men was found dead, his throat crushed. Section 3, Magic or Mass Hallucination. We kind of have to pause here and ask, magic or mass hallucination? Channeling Winston's skepticism for a second, it's super easy to say Hewitt was just exhausted, his mind was primed by the villagers' fears, and he was hypnotized by the terrifying visual of the priest. It was just a trick of the mind, right? Well, Hewitt didn't just rely on what he saw. He actually investigated the physical evidence left behind in the mud the very next morning. The crucial point is this footprint data. Hewitt found human prints heading to the edge of the clearing, prints belonging to a man missing his left big toe. Right where the priest stood, he found prints of 2 human feet close together. But then, leaving that exact spot, taking those 6 bipedal paces and dropping to all fours, were the unmistakable prints of a massive hyena. And the missing evidence is honestly the most chilling part. There were absolutely no human prints returning from the bush. Even worse, when they tracked the hyena that killed the villager to a watering hole, they found human footprints leading away from the water. And you guessed it, those human prints were also missing the left big toe. The physical evidence completely defied Winston's theory of mere hallucination. This absolutely inexplicable physical evidence prompts McLeod, the poet and museum curator, to jump in with a theory that goes way beyond both of his colleagues. He introduces the concept of a unified life force. McLeod theorizes that all life on Earth isn't separate at all.
Trees, beasts, flowers, humans, they are all just interchangeable parts, almost like billions of living cells making up a single, massive conscious force. Under certain extreme conditions, these parts can swap, meaning a human consciousness can literally migrate into an animal form.
Section 4. The Man Who Was Bee. To prove this, MacLeod offers a deeply unsettling personal anecdote about his old college roommate, a young man named Ferguson. Back in school, Ferguson possessed this uncanny, literal empathy with animals. He didn't just imagine how a hunted fox felt. He claimed his mind, his very soul, actually slipped outside of himself and into the beast. He ran with the hare, he chased with the hounds.
So 30 years pass with zero contact. Then, Ferguson just walks into MacLeod's office one day, and guys, the physical transformation is horrifying. He's no longer the clean-cut young man MacLeod knew. His hair has become a fine golden fuzz. His face is flat and oval, dominated by oversized dark glasses that look exactly like the multiple eyes of an insect. His voice is a muffled, continuous humming and buzzing. And most shockingly, his hands, which are covered in that same yellow fuzz, feel less like human flesh and more like the tactile foot of an insect.
Ferguson actually invites MacLeod out to his new home, a New Jersey apiary. And when MacLeod gets there, he finds the environment totally immersive and honestly deeply unnatural. The line between a human home and an insect hive has been completely obliterated. The house is basically one high room, the windows shuttered except for one looking out at the hives. The air is suffused with this dim, golden white light. Ferguson doesn't even eat meat anymore. He offers MacLeod only honey, sweet cakes, and honeymead.
Section 5. Flight of the Swarm. This is where the pacing of the story just accelerates dramatically, as Ferguson reveals his ultimate goal. He tells MacLeod he has abandoned humanity for the life of the bee, specifically, the drone. He speaks with absolute rapture about the short, merry life of the drone, darting through the sun, fed by its sisters. But more than that, he speaks of the fatal ecstasy of the nuptial flight. That wild moment where the drone wings through the air on the track of the Virgin Queen, pouring all its life force into one singular, blazing moment of existence, cheating death by dying in the absolute heart of ecstasy. And right as he's explaining this, a faint, sustained roaring begins outside. It grows stronger and stronger. It is the deafening roar of hundreds of thousands of tiny planes, the beating of thousands upon thousands of bee wings. The swarms are taking flight. Ferguson leaps to the window. His reaction is completely involuntary. A tremor shakes him, pulsing faster and faster, a frantic rhythm. The transformation takes over entirely. Ferguson's outstretched arms start to quiver. They beat up and down so rapidly they literally blur like a hummingbird's wings, or a bee's wings. His voice devolves completely into a frantic, buzzing sound. For one terrifying instant, MacLeod doesn't even see a man at the window at all. He sees only a great drone, buzzing, humming, striving desperately to break through the screen and join the swarm outside. And then, Ferguson topples backward. He collapses to the floor, dead. MacLeod rushes over. Ferguson's glasses are knocked away, revealing immense, black, multiple eyes, the actual eyes of a bee. There is no heartbeat. And then, we hit the horrifying climax. MacLeod watches as slowly, the dead man's mouth opens. Through the pale lips comes the questing head of a drone, its antennae waver. It crawls out from between the dead lips, rests for a breath, vibrates its wings, and takes flight, circling MacLeod's head before frantically throwing itself against the window screen to join the swarm outside. This brilliantly illustrates the horrific reality of MacLeod's theory. MacLeod actually cuts the screen, letting the insect escape. But when he turns back to look at his friend's corpse, the transformation has reversed completely. Before the insect escaped, remember, Ferguson was covered in golden fuzz, with black, multifaceted eyes. But after the drone left his body, Ferguson's eyes are dead, but they're human and blue. His hair is black again. His hands are white, sinewy, and completely hairless. His consciousness, his very soul, had literally taken physical flight as that insect, leaving his human shell behind. Section 6. A unified life force. So, what do we actually take away from all this?
By intertwining Hewitt's crazy encounter with the hyena priest and McLeod's horrifyingly witnessing Ferguson's final flight, Merritt's story forces us to look really hard at the rigid boundaries we place around human identity and consciousness. It asks us to consider if our perception of reality is just a thin veil over a much more connected and honestly much more terrifying natural world.
Which leaves us with this final, genuinely provocative question. Are all living things really just interchangeable parts of a single conscious force? Are we actually as separate from the beasts, the birds, and the swarm as we like to think we are? Or is that borderland just waiting for the exact right moment or the right sound to be crossed? I'll let you ponder that. Thanks for joining me on this explainer. Keep questioning what you see.